All right. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
It's been thrown in. I came in for a tech check, and we're live. It's live television. Oh my, yeah.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, I'm the only one in the whole DevRel studios. I mean, I had to have a badge access to get in. It's been fun.
It's a skeleton crew.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, I was just
All
going to
right.
tweet. I was going to get ready to tweet and toot that we're going to be doing a show here.
That's right. I was thinking about it. It's been like several years since you and I have done like a co-host like this. Just, we're busy. It's just
It's
how it
been a
happens.
while, man. It's
It's
been a
been a
while.
while.
I'm tweeting this. I'm live on .NET right
So,
now.
and by the way, everybody, thank you for watching .NET Conf. It's been a great conference, a lot of great content. We are going to be posting the playlist of all the videos that we have up to day 1 and day 2. So please stay tuned to .NETconf.net. We're going to have all the info out there. You can go out there, look at it. We still have the swag bag, and we still have the Decoder Challenge, so go ahead and submit those. We will announce winners today at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. We have, again, a full day of sessions, and we love to have you. So thank you so much, friends, for being with us, and we'll get going here. Thank you so much for Janice Q7 for posting that URL in there. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. And yeah, it's been a fun conference. It's been cold here in Redmond. It's like mid-30s, which is actually warmer home, which is kind of difficult, like hard to fathom. But all right, so we're just waiting for Scott's slowly setting up, and we will get rocking and rolling. First and foremost, I love the setup of the studio. I came in, I had to turn the lights on, everything else. Literally, I'm the only person, I think, in the entire building right now. So it's kind of spooky at the same time.
So I'm curious, Javier, are you going to hang out with me, or are you going to leave me all alone? Because if you're busy, you have to go get breakfast or something.
No, I already had breakfast, Scott. So I'm just going to mute my video and audio, and I'll let you do your thing. And if you have a question you want to interact with me, just tap me on the shoulder, and I'll.
Well, I would also point out that I love an audience. Right now, it's very, very early.
It is very early.
My kids are all going to school, and the house is empty. My wife is she works at the hospital. So, if you're watching, Javier, and you say, "Oh, stop," and you're going to jump in, leap into the stream, and go, "Hey, I have a question."
Got it.
I would not feel bad.
You know what? I will do that for you, Scott. You got it.
I appreciate you, sir. All right. Good deal.
All right. I'm going to mute myself and take it away, sir.
All right, friends, how's it going? Very, very nice to be here. So here's what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about working with Linux with .NET, and I want to show you some things that maybe you haven't seen before. You may know, of course, that WSL, the Windows Subsystem for Linux, allows us to run Linux on Windows, and it also allows us to, go and target Linux. So if we're going to be running a Linux container, for example, in the cloud, then we can go and test that locally. But there's some cool things that are happening around .NET on Linux, especially .NET 7 on Linux, and some experimentation that I've been doing as I've been learning the features. I learned the features as well as you're learning the features to make them smaller, to make them easier to deploy, to make containers, to do containers with alternate container runners and alternate container managers that aren't just Docker. So let's go ahead and bring up my screen, and we'll do a couple of questions here, a couple of tests. So here I've got my Windows terminal. I just want to show that. A lot of people are offended by my my too many icons. So we'll just hide all that because people are like, oh my God, Scott, you have too many icons. Fine, we'll just hide them all. So that's cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Windows terminal here. I encourage you all to use the Windows terminal. And I want to point out, if we pop this Windows terminal down, we have all these different prompts available to us here. Okay, and a lot of them are different Linuxes. So if we have the Windows terminal, and you've got terminal on your machine already, you probably have it and you're not necessarily using it. You see we've got terminal and we've got command prompt. We're going to pick terminal, and we'll go and say terminal. We'll bring that up. There's also a terminal preview that you can get, which is cool. And we've got all these different things. And I want to point out, of course, that PowerShell came up and Ubuntu. And that is because I went and I set this new instance behavior to attach to the most recent windows, and I have when terminal starts, open windows from a previous session. And actually, I'm realizing, my friends, that I'm turning my head this way, even though my thing's over here. So forgive me as I'm flipped. So I'm going to be kind of going like that. I might want to actually change that and flip myself around. This is one of the things that happens when we do a little bit of live TV. So I'm going to turn my camera off for a second, and you're going to see me disappear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to flip my camera around, and that might be fun. And then what we'll do is have me pointing in a different direction, because right now I think that's a little bit annoying. This is a small thing that we do, but it's worth pointing out, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to say transform, and I'm going to flip myself so I can go like that. Little thing, but it makes me happy. All right, cool. So here in the terminal, I've set it to pop up Ubuntu and PowerShell. And what I can actually do even is I can bring this down, and I can hold down the Alt key. I'm going to hold down Alt with one thumb, and then I've got PowerShell on the one side and Ubuntu on the other. Now, I also happen to have the Oh My Posh prompt here, so you can see my blood sugar right there. And as I move around into different locations, you'll see my Git prompt will pop up. Okay, so you'll see me moving around. Now I have the same thing happening over here in Ubuntu, but don't worry about it. I just am using Oh My Posh as my prompt in two places. Okay, so I've got Ubuntu side by side with PowerShell. So let's go over to GitHub. This is just my C:/GitHub. And we'll make a folder, make directory, and we'll say it .NET 7 console. And I'm going to go in there and say .NET 7 console. Now, I'm just doing this at the command line because I like to drive stick shift. I want to show people how this works. And I'm going to just go and say where.net.exe. Okay, so I've just said where. Where is it? Well, .NET.exe is located in programfiles.net. Now, even though this is .NET 7, this is the .NET 7 SDK, I can say .NET-info, okay? And I can see all the different .NETs that I have available to me. And what's cool about this is I've got 3, and I've got 6, and I've got 7, all on the same machine, which is cool. And they're all in this same path, programfiles.net SDK. And in fact, I can take that, and I can say Explorer. Oops, we're going to go back. I'll get back out of here and go back into PowerShell. I can go into Explorer.exe, and we'll drop into the PowerShell through the programfiles.net SDK. And then you can see in the folder right there, we've got 7, 6, and then .NET Core 3. Okay, so the reason that I'm showing you that is that if we go over to Ubuntu, okay, which is not Windows, I'm going to say LSB release-A just to prove to you that it's Ubuntu. It is a couple of years old, but it is real Ubuntu. I can't say where.net, but I can say which.net, which.net. And that's going to show me that .net in this case is installed in user bin.net. And there's actually a link that goes into another location. Now you can install .net in a couple of different ways, but I went sudo apt install .net SDK 6, and then you can go and do .NET SDK 7. Now 6 is installed in Ubuntu by default, and it's available without you having to add anything. You don't have to do anything. With 7, you do have a little bit of setup. So if I go over to the .NET website here, I'll just pop that up for a sec, and I'll hit .NET. There you go. I found it right away. Okay, and then we go and say downloads. You've got instructions on Linux for your package managers. So in your package manager instructions, and we're working to get those updated. They are not yet updated right now. You can go down and you can look up how to get those packages, how to install .NET. And on Ubuntu, you follow these instructions here. Really what you're doing is you're updating your app, you're updating your catalog, and then you're installing .NET, either the runtime or the SDK. So in this case here, we're changing it to say .NET SDK 7. And again, those docs will get updated soon. Now in doing that, I have a lot of power now. I can go and make all kinds of applications. So let's go to our home folder. We'll make a directory .NET 7 test. .NET 7, oops, test. Now I am in home Scott.NET on Ubuntu, which is got .NET installed here. And I'm going to say .NET new console and make a console app, just like I would ordinarily. And then we can go and look in there, and I'll actually go like that. You can see our program.cs. And in this case here, it's a very small one because we have those smaller console templates. Now, when I say .NET run, you'll see that it's kind of going 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3. And you might be thinking yourself, that's kind of slow. That's not really fun. Well, what's going on there is that this is the .NET SDK, and that run implies a restore, takes a second, and then a build, takes a second, and all of that, and then an exec, because what it's doing is it's executing that right there. Now, if we go into this folder here, we go down into the folder to see what was produced. We're going to go down into here. Let's note where we are. We're in home, Scott, .NET 7 test, bin debug, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That guy right there, .NET test, you see how it is marked as executable? That's been schmodded. I always say schmod plus X. We've marked that as executable. That's the thing that I could run. So I don't have to run say .NET run. The executable that I would actually run is this one here. So I would say .NET 7 test. And you do that, and it goes instantly. So I'm going to say .NET 7 test. Now, again, I'm on Linux, so I can do a couple of things that I can't do on Windows, or I do differently on Windows. And one of them would be to time that. If I were going to use something like PowerShell on Windows, I might say measure object. Here, we're going to say time. I'm going to say .NET 7 test. We can see that that starts up in sub milliseconds here. What do we got here? 0.087, and it tells you what time it spends in real mode, in user mode, and doing syscalls. So that's pretty fast. Okay. 1/10 of a second there. Okay, so that's pretty fast. That's okay. It's just a console app, but what is it using to actually run? Well, the runtime has been installed. So this is not a complete self-contained application. That runtime, that .NET runtime has been installed, and we can confirm that it's installed on Linux with that .NET -- info. So we can see .NET runtime's installed right here. So that runtime, which is located here, user share.net, has to be installed ahead of time. So if you wanted to go and run this little app on Ubuntu or on Linux, you'd have to install that runtime ahead of time. And for some people, that might not be ideal. You might want to do something that's more self-contained. So let's see if we can do something a little bit different. We'll go back to our .NET app right here, and then we're going to say .NET publish, and we're going to go and say Linux x64. And then we're going to say, oops, I went too fast. I'm going to clear the screen and do that again. /p publish single file. Oops. Publish single file equals true. Okay. Now it's saying, hey, I need you to express, are you going to do this self-contained or not self-contained? Because I've expressed a runtime. So we're going to say self-contained. It's going to go and do that. Now let's take a look at this folder right here. And I'm going to say push D, drop into there. Now look at this. Now I've got a much larger application. I've got an application that is, 66 megs. That's probably maybe a little bigger than you would expect. Well, what's happening is that's all of .NET that's appearing inside of that's a single file feature. And at this point, you might want to think, well, do I want to trim that? Do I want to make that smaller? How can I make that even tinier? Well, one of the new features that's happening right now in .NET 7 is doing AOT, ahead of time compilation, not just in time compilation. We want to basically compile it into a native library. Okay, and I'm still learning how to do this myself, so I do have some instructions that I've brought over from another location. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a change over here. I'm going to say pop D, go back up here. So now we're in home Scott 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this .NET test csproj. That's that project file. And .NET project files are pretty chill right now. Okay, and we can edit this in a number of ways. Certainly, if I am a very Linuxy person, I could go Vim and I could do that. But because I like to be silly, I'm going to actually run Notepad. Of course, Notepad doesn't exist on Ubuntu, but Notepad.exe does. And that's because it exists on Windows, and it's going to allow us to run that Windows application. So then we just launched into dark mode Notepad, which is pretty hot. And I'm just going to drop in this publish AOT, publish ahead of time equals true. Okay? So we've made a small change. Now, again, I'm doing this in Notepad. I'm driving stick shift. I'm using a manual transmission here just because I like to see what's happening underneath. But you certainly have no obligations to do that if you think that this is silly. Okay. And now we'll go and we'll publish that. Okay. So now it's saying, hey, you can't do publish single file or publish AOT at once. You got to do it one or the other. You have to decide, are you going to be doing this with ahead of time compilation and really compile this into native code, or are you going to bundle this up? So that's good information. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that publish single file. Do a regular publish, and then look at this. It says generating native code, generating native code. So there's an extra little moment there, a little step there. And that little moment, put into this folder publish, say push D, drop down into here. Look, a significantly smaller application. I'm going to actually remove that. So see if we can see that actually happen again. Okay. Pop D. Unpublish that. Okay. And then we will drop back into that folder. Now you might notice me using this push D and pop D instead of CD, instead of change directory. This is one of my favorite things about the command line. I've been using this since probably 1992 or 94. This pushes onto the stack the folder that I'm going to, and then when I gotta go back, I can just say pop D and pop it off the stack. So I'm here in publish, run .NET test, and that starts up really fast. So now we can go and do time.NET test. Look at that. What's going on here? How is that, dozens, if not hundreds of times faster? Well, because that is a native application. So now this app, this is an ahead of time app. This is a native app. We generated native code here, right there. And because we added in the project file that we're going to publish ahead of time, we've got this built-in AOT ability, which made it smaller, made it faster. Now it's early days and there's some things that you can't do with that, but it's really, really exciting and I want you to explore that. So if you've got a little console application that you're doing, that's a utility and you want to give it to your friends and you don't want them to have to think about the .NET runtimes, you don't want to have them think about installing .NET, maybe they don't have .NET 6 or .NET 7 built in, that is an option for you. And I think that that's pretty darn cool.
So,
okay.
Hey, Scott, I got a question for you. So
yes, sir.
It's pretty great. I love this. And obviously you're targeting, when I saw in your command line there, you are targeting Linux 64-bit, right? x64.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so Javier is making a very clear point that we are explicit at this moment right here.
Right. And the reason why I bring that up is like, if people, like if you can say, hey, I'm going to run this in a Docker container, right? I want to run this or whatever, right? I can specifically target for that OS and it would be optimized for that version of the OS. I can't take this executable and run it on Windows because it's
actually that's a fantastic point that you make, sir. So we're calling out that this is not .NET 7.exe. Right. That is what called as an ELF binary, right? That's what the binaries are called on Linux. So this is an ELF binary and that will not run. That is a compiled for Linux. And if I was going to do that for Windows, I would say .NET publish -r win x64.
Right.
And then like that. Oops. Hop back here. Boop. Okay. Now notice that it's taking a while here. What's happening? I'm on Linux. I don't have that, and it's not going to cross-compile natively. So this is a great point that you brought up. So let's go back over to our CS proj. I should be doing better with my project, with my history, so that people are not watching me mess around here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to type code dot. This is a good opportunity.
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea.
Drop it in. You see this here? Visual Studio Code splits in half, and we've got VS Code Server installing itself right here, unpacking, and then we're going to launch Visual Studio Code directly from Linux, except we've launched the Windows one. I'll make my edit from here. Okay.
And it's also important for people to know that this is a different file system than what you have on your Windows machine, right?
Very, very valid point. So if I'm here in Ubuntu, and again, I can confirm that I'm in Ubuntu by saying lsb release-a. I can also doubly confirm by pressing df and looking at the file system. And you can see that this file system is here. It thinks it's its local drive. Our Windows file system is down here.
Oh, it's mounted. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Right, great point. Thanks for calling out. And when you're doing this work, ideally for perf, you're going to want to spend your time in the home folder. You're going to want to spend your time off that tilde folder. So off of here or off of, at the very least, your root. Otherwise, you're going to be paying the price of going over that mount point, over that distance.
Right.
So then, to his point, let's go into our CS proj here, and then we'll delete that publish AOT for a second. Okay, so I've removed that. Now I'm going to hit Control R because my hands are used to doing it one way, but you get the idea. So .NET publish -R, and it says, well, hang on, now I want to do that. I got to do the runtime. So now let's go and just do self-contained. Now this is not going to work because this is not Windows. Oops.
There you go, sir.
We'll build it, but I'm not going to be able to run it, right?
Right.
But to your original point, which I think was a great one, and thank you for that. That's why it's always nice to have folks pop in and say, hey, what about this? Makes for a better talk. That's the point that Javier is making.
Right.
Okay. So we go in here. Look at this. Now, the reason that it took a moment there was it was actually downloading the Windows runtime here over on Linux. That is an actual .NET 7 executable for Windows. So I've built it from Linux, but if I want to run it, I need to run it on Windows. Now, this gets into a little bit of inception. I would not recommend doing this, but we can try it just because we're silly. If we run this, will it work? Can you take any bets?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'd say let's roll it and see what it does.
Okay, so it did work. How did that work? Let me show you how that worked, because you might think, well, hang on, this is mixing metaphors. What's going on? What we're going to do is we're going to drop over here and we're going to add a console.readline. That way we're going to stop our project. We're going to say write line, say hello, and then we're going to say read line, which means stop it. Okay. And I'm going to build that again. Okay. So I built it again. My stack is empty. We're going to drop over into here. CD, drop in there. I'm going to look at my executables. We're going to say .NET 7 test, pause, pause, pause. Now it's holding in memory there, right? It's stopped. And what we're going to do is we're going to run Process Explorer. And Process Explorer is a sysinternals utility that's kind of like a supercharged task manager. And we're going to go Control F. We can probably do that. We want to find our here's all that WSL service, all the things that are hosting and working with Linux right here. But we see that we've got console in there. But what happens is it wasn't, in fact, Linux that popped that up. I'm looking for, there you go. Here's the tree. There's WSL. That executable is a Windows executable that was run by the WSL host, that WSL command line. So we ran it, but no, we are not running a Windows app on Linux. All we did was we shelled out to Linux.
Yeah,
and
it's a child process of it.
Child process, exactly, sir. So I can go explorer.exe. I'm not running Windows Explorer on Linux. I just told Windows to run it for me.
Right.
Make sense? All right. Now you brought up containers. I want to show you something that I'll bet you at $1.75 you have never seen before. You ready for this?
I bet you I haven't.
Do you have $1.75? You're asking the right questions, my friend. All right. So let's do this. .NET Container Web. Okay. So let's try this. Let me see if I can do this. I've got 10 minutes. I wonder if I can do it all in one swell foop. Okay. Let's say .NET New Razor. I'll just say hello world. Faster. Okay. So we're on Linux. We've got our .NET app. Say .NET Run. We go and build this. You've seen this before.
Right.
Okay. Now you've got localhost 5004. I'm going to click on that. And you can see that popped up. This brings up another really cool aspect of using Linux on Windows is that port got forwarded.
Yes.
To myself. Because what's local anyway, right? Is local me or is local them, right? We don't know. Right. And in fact, if I looked at TCP view, we would see that it's again WSL host that's holding onto that port. Okay. So you've seen that. You're unimpressed. He remains unimpressed. Did you know that you can say .NET Publish, which you've seen, -OS Linux, and say the architecture, 64, rather than saying -R. It's a lot more intuitive, and I don't have to remember a string. It's pretty cool. Okay.
Right.
But P, which is a parameter we're going to pass into our build here, we're going to say the default container.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Told you. I want to show people stuff that they've never seen before. Container. Now, that's not going to work, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm saying publish. Instead of saying -R, I'm going to do it like this, which is a little easier to remember. Then I'm going to add in this publish container. Now it's going to say, well, I don't know what publish container is. That's bananas.
Right.
Okay. So there is a new package called Microsoft .NET Build Containers.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm going to add that. I'm just going to add a reference. It just said .NET Add Package. All I did was that, .NET Add Package. So let's look at our CS Proj. Where's our CS Proj? Actually, I've been using cat. Cat is like this. I think there's also bat. Yeah, bat's even prettier. So there's our package reference, .NET Build Containers. Okay. Now, I am not running Docker. Okay.
Right.
Not running Docker right now. So it says, right, blah, 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 create image, bunch of things broke because I have no one to receive the package.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no one to receive the package. But go back over here into a more familiar environment. I'm in PowerShell here real quick.
Sure.
I've pre-done this over here, same exact project. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change an environment variable. I'm going to tell it that my Docker host is not, in fact, Docker, but is an alternative Podman. Have you ever used Podman?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Maybe you have seen this before. I hope not.
Well, no, I know. I mean,
you know it exists.
Yeah, you can do Docker. You can do containers outside of Docker. That's the thing. It's like there's multiple ways of doing it. Right.
So Podman has got a little Windows app here. It says Podman is running. Docker is stopped. Okay. I'm going to change that Docker host environment to point to this new location. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to publish this here. Building image. I want to point this out. We're in .NET. We said .NET build. Okay. And .NET now knows how to build container images itself.
Oh, wow.
I didn't say Docker build. I said .NET publish. and I said, can you publish the container? So without having Docker installed or running, I'm going and I'm making the container, and then I'm pushing it to a daemon, or daemon, depending on whether you pronounce it that way or not. I've always said daemon. And the one it got pushed to is Podman.
Right.
Because you got choice. You have choices here. Okay, now what this means is ordinarily you type like Docker images, right?
Right.
I'm going to say, I always type podcast, type Podman images. And look at that.
Very nice.
So 50 seconds ago, I pushed that. Okay, so then how do we run that? Well, how do you usually run your Docker images, right? You go Docker run,
right.
Docker run, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say instead, Podman run. Basically, any command line that you can do with Docker, you can do with Podman. It's command line compatible, and you can make an alias. So all your things that already ran, you can run before. And I'm going to say, outside in, localhost, .NET 7, container web, 1. And you can't say .latest. You want to be explicit. So I'm going to use the tag that we did. So I'm saying Podman run.
Right.
Now it's mad because it's already in use. Okay, let's find out. Maybe we already have somebody on 8080. Podman PSA. Podman PS. Ah, look at that. So I've got one that's been running already. It's been up for 16 hours. Huh? Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So now I go over here, I hit localhost right there, and that's hello world. So that is .NET 7 building a Linux container image from .NET itself, and then pushing it to a registry, in this case, my local registry. But I could have published this directly to Azure or to any cloud that had a registry waiting. Isn't that cool? And I'm not using, in this case, Docker, I'm using Podman. So I've got choices here. I can actually see the running container right there. And I can see the images that I pushed just a few minutes ago.
Right. Hey, can you open program.cs again to see actually what it's doing? Quick?
Yeah, that's a great point. So here we are in container web. We'll say code dot. We'll bring this up. And let's look at this one here.
Yep.
So that is a minimal API and quite a sparse file there. Now, this can be a little bit confusing for people who may have been in .NET for many, many years, but the using system and the public namespace, public class, and on the public static void main, it's all there. If you open it up, if you IL decompile this, it's there. It's just implied. And if you don't like this, then you can keep it the way it was. There's no pressure.
Very, very nice.
Isn't that cool? All right. So the part that is then significant is if I can make microservices like this, and I can combine the ability to build and push and run containers directly from .NET, and start doing things like ahead of time compilation. Let me go back. Here's a little pro tip about Windows Terminal. If you hit Control-Shift-F, you can actually search the terminal itself. If you remember, oh, I typed something, I can find it again. Isn't that cool? So publish AOT, single file, we could theoretically make tiny microservices that are native, that are running .NET inside of tiny containers. So then our container images will be smaller. And we've also got these what are called chiseled containers, which are the smallest possible containers from our friends at Canonical and Ubuntu that make those container images even simpler. And I also want to point out that I built and pushed this. Did you note that there was no Docker file here? Isn't that cool? The Docker file was implied.
Right. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Now I could have a Docker file. So if we go over to Hansel Minutes, which actually has a Docker file, I've got a Docker build. Right? Now, in this case here, my Docker build is using Docker proper.
Right.
But I could say podman build -t podcast.
With a Docker. Yep. And it will honor the Docker file.
And it's going to honor the Docker file. So in this case here, this doesn't look familiar because it's not using the same stuff that we're used to. But again, command line compatible. There it is. So I'm now building the Hanselman It's podcast container here. Then I can push it and do whatever I want. So Podman's cool, Docker's cool, and then Azure Container Registry is cool, Azure Container Instances. Super fun stuff. A lot of great things happening. And you'll notice I'm very comfortably moving back and forth between Linux and Windows. So I'm going to keep looking at that. You can read all about it in the .NET blogs. There's a ton of really, really interesting container and cloud native work that is happening right now on .NET, my friends.
Well, and it's interesting because you mentioned Chisel Containers, and guess what? We have Rich Lander and Valentin.
Oh, is that who's next?
They're next. They're literally in the green room. I'll bring them in here. So
let's bring them in. This is beautiful.
I will bring them in. Check it out. It is a party.
Hey, friends.
Docker party.
Hey, folks.
Hey, did you see that at all, Rich and Valentin?
Yeah. It looked hot.
It's hot. I'm telling you, super fun. So I would love to hear more about that. So I will get out of your way and let you all take over because I think that this is really the cat's pajamas. I'm trying to bring that phrase back. I want the kids to start saying it's becoming a Gen Z phrase. It's the bee's knees.
That is so fetch of you, Scott. So fetch.
Yeah, I fetch will never happen, but the bee's knees. It's .NET 7 is the bee's knees, my friends.
Right. Disco's the dance, right? That's what's popular right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Cool.
Thanks,
all right. Well,
Scott.
have fun, friends.
See ya. Bye.